Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Clear Vista Financial are not affiliated. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spend Life Well Show, where we apply biblical wisdom to your financial life. I'm Certified Kingdom Advisor Mark Trice, and the studio with me is Jesse Hamilton.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Jesse, today we're going to be talking about debt. That's such a dirty word sometimes to me.
It is a dirty word, but
it's something we all struggle with.
Yes, and it's so prevalent in our American society to just get anything you want and use debt to get there.
So if you have debt or you have a problem with debt, this podcast is for you.
Yes, and we're going to try to see what the Bible says about it, because it does talk a lot about debt.
It does, and there's lots of instruction, lots of biblical wisdom on debt. I know the verse that comes to mind, Jesse, is Proverbs 22:7, which talks about the borrower is slave to the lender, and that several translations use the word slave, and that's a strong word.
It is a strong word.
And so if we've got debt, how do we manage it? How do we get out from underneath that debt? And what's the right way to do that?
So there are, depending on how you look at it, different severity levels of debt. And I don't think the Bible makes a distinction between any of them. They're all debt. But something like a mortgage is different than a credit card loan, right?
I would think so, because one's secured by a physical asset.
Appreciating
asset, typically. Versus credit card debt, which is unsecured. But there's different types of debt. We've got credit cards, you've got student loans, you've got mortgages, etc.
The big one is auto loans right now.
Right. So we're not going to get into the debt and whether or not one's right or wrong. That's not.
We can tell you which one's financially right or wrong, but that's up to you to decide which one's morally right or wrong.
That's between you and the Lord. So you need to decide that. But, debt is really prevalent in our society. It's like, think about around Christmas time. We got to buy the wife a Lexus and put a big red bow on it because that's the only thing that'll make her happy. And it's not true. Advertisers appeal to our emotions in these situations. I think I read something that the average consumer is exposed to over 5,000 advertising messages per day.
I believe that it's probably more with the amount that we use our phones these days.
And I was, I was thinking back to different movies and product placements. Even in the movies, you go to the movies and you're going to have product placement.
Mm-hmm.
None was funnier than Wayne's World back in the 90s, where they just said they would not kowtow to a major brand and for endorsements, and they're wearing the jumpsuits from Reebok and eating the Pizza Hut pizza and drinking Pepsi, I think is what it was. But we're inundated with it, so it's hard to avoid that culture that says you deserve it now, and take out a loan to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first step I think people need to think about is assessing your debt situation.
Yes. Do you have it already, or are you thinking about getting it?
And so you want to look at the different types of debt you might have, the amount of debt you have, interest rates, and due dates and things, and making a list of those types of debts and what the payments are going to help you develop a strategy to tackle that debt.
That's right. Even if you come to us for debt counseling or any other professional for the service, that's the first thing that we can't do any work without is we need the balance and the interest rate of each form of debt that you have.
And I think it's really important, Jesse, that people face their debt and deal with it responsibly and ethically.
Yes.
Putting your statements in the junk drawer in your kitchen is not a responsible way of tackling debt.
Right.
I used to hate opening bills. When I was newly married and kind of jumped into this culture and was willing to take on debt and things, got into a little trouble, and I just tried to avoid it because if I don't think about it or if I don't look at it, it's not there, right?
That's probably very common.
It's very common, and that I just want to encourage you because you can tackle your debt. You can be debt-free. And it's something that I think is a very wise thing for people to consider.
Mm-hmm.
So, think about the different types of popular debt repayment plans. First of all, we don't recommend necessarily that you go contact a credit card consolidation company. those can ding your credit really bad. They can also put you into forced payouts. It doesn't give you any type of flexibility. But Jesse, why don't we talk about two popular methods of debt reduction?
Yes. So the most two common debt reduction or repayment strategies are the snowball method and the avalanche method. So if you go on a lot of faith-based groups, they're going to probably recommend one of these. And let's discuss the pros and cons of each method, starting with the snowball method.
Yeah, the snowball method was popularized by Dave Ramsey up to 2 decades ago, really, and that's kind of what he teaches. And it basically says to organize let's just pick on credit cards for now. Organize your credit card balances in terms of the size. And so your smallest balances are at the top of the list to tackle first. The largest balances are at the bottom of the list. And the idea being that you tackle the smallest balance first, so that you have some part of getting out of debt and changing your habits and so forth is having short-term psychological wins. And paying off that $200 Visa bill and then taking that $200 and moving on to the next one is really psychologically rewarding and can encourage you to continue on.
Yeah, so I think what Mark's saying is it's not technically the most financially best way to do it because you're not actually reducing your interest the most, but you're making the most momentum because your brain is rewarded by doing it.
That's right. And debt really is probably, 90% is about the psychological side of it.
It's
10%
behavioral,
is
yeah.
the mechanics of that. So the avalanche method, and Jesse alluded to this, what is organizing your attack plan on your debts by which debt has the highest interest payment that you have to make every month.
And which might not be the biggest balance.
That's right. The highest allowed interest rates on credit cards these days is around 29.9%. Okay,
Yeah, I've seen a couple up there.
That's pretty steep. So if you paid that balance down first, you're saving money in effect by not paying more interest on that card.
Yeah, you are paying yourself that interest rate. Granted, you're in the hole, you're in the negative. So
and we're not going to go on to the
money.
steps. We've talked about this in other podcast episodes. We recommend you go back and watch those. But it's really, these are the two methods. There's pros and cons of each. One will pay down the debt faster if you stick to the plan. The other is more rewarding and encourages you to keep at it. But each have their pros and cons.
I personally like the snowball method, Mark. And I think that Jesus had a point where over 20 of his parables were about money because we struggle with our behavior with money. So I think our behavioral relationship with money is more important than the dollars and cents of it.
And if you need some help, seek help from a financial advisor. There's a number of counselors out there that will help you through your debt. Once again, if as a last resort, you start looking at credit counseling agencies and things like that to help you pay off your debt. And of course, bankruptcy is the last option that we want anyone to ever consider. That can have a much larger damaging impact on your financial future when you go that route.
You can't just go into the office and declare bankruptcy like Michael Scott.
From The Office, what did he just come out and shouted I declare bankruptcy. Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. So there's lots of benefits for getting that financial professional advice. And even some structured debt management programs that will help you kind of walk through these steps, and really having someone to help hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But the trick to getting out of debt is really, I think, Jesse, avoiding future debt. Right? We've had several episodes on debt and different things like that. You might want to watch some of our episodes on budgeting or developing spending plans, preparing for the future, building those emergency funds to go to when you have a crisis, like my transmission going out a few months ago.
That emergency fund is really your armor. If you have $0 in savings, life is going to happen. Something's going to come up, and if you don't have the cash to pay for it, $1,000 will cover almost all emergencies.
Most emergencies, it really does, or at least get you on that path. And that will prevent you from having to use credit cards. I think we often see that the plastic is the first thing that we go to. I mean, it's such today, a lot of people don't even use cash anymore. They're just using the cards. And so be careful. You've got to commit to living within your means and avoiding further debt. Jesse, I'm trying to remember a verse from Philippians. It's Paul writes about, for I've learned, Philippians 4.
Is this when he's in jail?
Yeah, I've learned in whatever situation to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. And in every circumstance, I've learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Him, as Christ, who strengthens me.
So yeah, Philippians 4:13. All the athletes have it on their tattoo, right? But it's really almost a financial wisdom.
Right, it is, and there's lots of great scripture in Proverbs of dealing with debt. Proverbs 6:1-5. My son, if you have put up security, in other words, you guaranteed someone's loan for your neighbor, make sure you go and address that and get out from that situation. Solomon gave us many verses dealing with debts and things like that, and Ecclesiastes, and he tells us to be active and take the initiative. Don't sit around, don't avoid debt, don't hide that. And so, folks, there's lots of different ways, different techniques to tackle debt. Our general view is try to avoid it. There's certain things today that it's probably a little hard to save up all the cash to buy a new home, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very hard, and we recognize that, although there's some financial advisors out there that say that's the only way to do it. We agree that perhaps it's better to put a larger down payment, but you really, if you're going to buy a house, you may need to take a mortgage out.
And one distinction that I'd like to make between a mortgage and an auto loan, some people think, oh, well, I'm just using debt to buy something I need, right? My house and my
That's
car.
one way to think about it, yeah.
But like we said earlier, the mortgage is a physical appreciating asset. Over time, real estate is going to grow at, I don't know what the average is. In Texas, it's around 6% per year of the value. But when you buy a car or a truck, you can expect it to depreciate about 10% per year.
And 20% as soon as you roll out of the parking lot.
Exactly. So if you've secured debt obligations against that, you're making a monthly payment on an asset that is guaranteed to lose value.
And parents, I'll just leave you with this note. Parents of adult children, do not guarantee a loan on an auto, because your kids who are not qualified to get a loan anywhere will inevitably default on that loan. And guess who's on the hook for it? Mom and dad. So be sure to avoid that. Jesse, well, we can talk all day about getting out of debt and things, but these are just kind of the highlights.
Yeah.
Make sure you're assessing where you are, what's the picture look like now, face reality, and know that you've got lots of resources out there and a lot of instruction from the Bible of the importance of getting out of debt.
If you're in a huge amount of, quote, dangerous debt or in really a debt pit, we are available to help you. It's not the most fun part of our job. We don't necessarily enjoy it, but we
want to help.
We want to help you.
Yeah, we want to help. So, folks, until the next time you've been listening to the Spend Life Well Show, give us a call. You can reach us on the web at clearvistafinancial.com. You can send us an email at info@clearvistafinancial.com or send us a text at 254-282-0495. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Spend Life Well Show.